Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for our next session of the afternoon. As you all know, we have been hearing that the number of deepfake scams and other cyber threats are on the rise, posing significant challenges for security finance. In this session, from deepfakes to data privacy, holistic security in finance, our moderator, Kitty Kao, Global Marketing and Commercial Manager from HiTRUST, will discuss how to balance customer experience while maintaining robust security measures, the future of digital identity verification, fraud detection, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, not only that, for those sessions, if you want to come and listen, please grab a pair of headphones. Make sure the light is blue. And also, once you finish the session, please return the headphones too. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, may we have a big round of applause for Miss Kitty and her panelists.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today with us. So we actually have here my two lovely panelists who are Penny and George. So I'm going to pass it over to them to introduce themselves. So let's go, Penny.
Hello, everyone. I am Penny Chai. I come from Sumsub. We are a one verification platform. We are headquartered out of UK, and our Asia Pacific office is out of Singapore. And we do have a team here to help explain how we look after everybody's security from onboarding all the way through the life of the identity.
Good afternoon. My name is Jorge Sebastiao from EcoX AI. I'm Portuguese-Canadian. I've been in technology for about 36 years. We help a lot of startups dealing with the challenges of scaling up in, example, artificial intelligence. We have offices today and sitting in Limassol and Bahrain and Dubai, and also here in Bangkok, where we're deploying AI-based data centers. So it's a pleasure to be here with you and to talk about this challenging topic. As any technology always has two sides, a good side and a problematic side as well.
Thank you, panelists. So let's go ahead and kickstart our discussion. So today we'll be discussing the topic of from deepfake to data privacy, holistic security in finance. So I'm going to start us off with some information from a very recent research by Motor Intelligence that found that Asia Pacific region, where we're at, is quickly turning into the most digitally advanced region in the world. And it's e-commerce market size is estimated at 4.2 trillion US dollars, and it's projected to reach 6.76 trillion US dollars in 2029. And it's all because of the region's many people using mobile devices and also its young populations. So this first question I would like to ask you, Penny. With the increasingly growing activities in APAC's e-commerce markets, how do you balance the user experience while maintaining robust security in your platform for all the customers?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for having me. That's a very good question. Today, we find that if we have security, we may not have customer experience. If you have customer experience, you may not have security. Sumsub pride ourselves to be in the market for about 9 to 10 years right now, and we have actually found the perfect balance. But on our verification platform, we provide enough agility for all our customers to actually adjust the customer experience by the markets that they are penetrating. So for example, if you are penetrating Thailand, and Thailand people like to see their logo on the app, they also like to see the languages. And you can exactly basically customize that for Thailand on our platform. At the same time, within the same platform, you can also call out another country that you are actually serving and customize it as well. So all in all, you can actually have a very seamless, customized experience for every single market based on where you are penetrating. Now, what about security? Within just a few seconds, 50 and below is to be precise, we are able to tell whether the document, which is the ID document that is presented to you, whether it has been manipulated or whether it is fake, and whether the document has been basically replaced with another photo. And at the same time, within the same few seconds, we will ask the customer to take a selfie. During the selfie, we will have taken the biometric facial of the person, as well as experience aliveness to make sure that the person is alive and not a bot. And at the same time, we would have also been able to pick up whether this person is a deepfake or not. And that way, the customer would not even feel anything, but it is highly secure, highly compliant, and Sumsub is priding ourselves to be the first KYC company that has come up with a one verification platform that has gone beyond AML KYC, and we tout ourselves to have provided a fortified defenses so that you can actually be able to fend yourself against risks such as account takeover, payment fraud, and even romance scams.
Thank you, Penny. I couldn't agree more that when we're going global, customization is a very important thing that solution providers should be paying attention to. How about you, George? As an expert in the area, what do you think about the growing threats online from fraud?
Well, actually, every technology, in this case is AI technology, has become extremely powerful. You can see on the good side, AI technology can be used to build what we sometimes refer to today as a digital twin. Example, we just recently come back from Korea, and as you know, in Korea there is K-pop is very famous bands that are very agile and very focused on younger generation. So today there is K-pop bands that are 100% digitally generated, so they're a digital twin of existing bands, and they can post on social media songs and all that. So this is, I can say, a good side of AI. The bad side of AI with deepfakes is that we can easily impersonate somebody much easier than before. So there's several sides to it. One is, you can say, the voice side. So today with a few seconds of voice, maybe 30, 40 seconds, it's enough to actually completely impersonate you on an audio device like a microphone or like a telephone call. Video requires a few minutes and a few photos, but the result is pretty much the same. So it is capable to impersonate you in a YouTube video. It's capable to impersonate you in a streaming video, like if you're doing like a news TV channel. It's able to impersonate you, for example, in a Zoom call. There's been a recent attack, for example, in Asia, where executive of a company was asked to sign for a large check. And in this Zoom call, few of the executives of the same company appeared as real Zoom attendees, but they were 100% fake. And the amount that was being requested was in the millions of dollars. So that really means the kind of attacks that we can generate are very large in size and very risky for especially the new type of financial institutions, especially what we call sometimes neobanks or digital wallets, which they don't actually have almost any physical presence anywhere. So it's like digital to digital. However, of course, AI as a technology can also be used not only for also identity management and KYC, but if properly trained, can also be used to detect these deepfakes. It can be used to detect that either the audio content or the video content is not natural because there's some fabrication element to it. The second thing, it can also examine the contents or the semantic of what is being said. So what do I mean here is that normally if somebody's trying to do like a phishing attack on you or impersonating, or what we call sometimes a high risk scenario, somebody requesting you to sign a check or transfer a large amount of money, the analysis of the AI is able to determine that this is a high risk scenario, therefore special care should be taken. So it acts a bit as like an extra co-pilot or an extra seat belt or airbag as you have in a car to prevent you from actually getting into an accident. So So every technology plays a very important role in the success of these risks.
Thank you, George. So as we can see, apart from the e-commerce risks from deepfakes are also growing rapidly recently. And just at the beginning of this year, there was actually a case happening in Hong Kong where an employee sent 25 million US dollars to a fraudster because the fraudster used deepfake to make a phone call, and the employee picked up with all of her colleagues on the call, and they didn't know that it was a deepfake attack. So I just want to ask Penny, what are your views on deepfakes, and what are the solutions out there today to combat against them?
Right, that's a very sensational case where it's amazing that a group of people within the same meeting actually did not detect that that was a deep fake. In Sumsub, we do believe that there is a way in which we can make use of AI to combat AI, which is a deepfake, which is a type of AI. As per what George says, every single technology, there is the good side and then the challenging side. With deepfake, the very good side would be that it is being used for like creating doubles in the Hollywood movies. You basically save a lot of money because you can actually create doubles so easily and so realistically. But at the same time, this fun technology has turned into a place where fraudsters can make use of this technology and basically use this technology to spoof people into investment scams as well as others. Now, in our technology in Sumsub, not just on the onboarding part where I talk about taking a selfie, and during that period of time, we are able to detect deepfake of the person. So we talk about deepfake, we think of the person being personified and basically replicated, not just on themselves, their face, as well as their voice. We actually can see deepfake also on the background. So some people, they make use of real people, but actually they are spoofing the company because on onboarding, you actually get funds and you get, vouchers. So they make use of the same background, but then putting different people there. And that becomes similar to a syndicate and a network. Sumsub can basically catch that up. We call this fraud networks. In addition to being able to see the background is being deepfake, we are also able to sense where the device fingerprint of the person is. Basically, if a person is in onboarding in Vietnam, he cannot be at the same time in Thailand, for example. So we do have fraud networks where we can actually pick up all of these type of other scams. So we have actually made use of AI also in our transaction monitoring to be able to proactively see behavior. We are able to use the AI generatively to be able to see how a person's login behavior, device fingerprint behavior is like, and that becomes the baseline. And when someone actually go beyond this baseline, we will be able to proactively predict that this is a suspicious behavior, and we will be able to prompt the banks or the people who are using our system to go and investigate this type of suspicious behavior. So yes, we do believe that there is ways in which we make use of AI to combat AI. Yeah.
Wow, so nowadays not only we have to be careful of individual fraudsters, but also the fraud networks that Penny mentioned. And how about you, George? From your engagements with many players in the market, what are you seeing from the deepfakes, and what do you think about it? Do the companies actually have concerns about deepfakes as well? Because since we've seen that this is not only targeted as at the individual users, but also the companies.
I think one thing that is very important in cybersecurity or digital protection is sometimes what we call SETA, or stands for Security, Education, Training, and Awareness. I think different individuals within the organization, where they happen to be executives or normal day-to-day employees, or even just end users, they also need to be educated on the potential risks. And by the way, this has happened even before deepfakes. If we look in the original days of banking systems, ATMs, online banking, the traditional banks spend a lot of money in infrastructure on building firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and many others. However, they forgot that the most and the weakest point in any security transaction is actually the end user. So end user, you have to have the right mechanism to educate them, to train them, to build awareness in them of these risks. Now, AI has introduced, through deepfakes, a whole new generation of risks that the average user is not aware or not prepared for. So you need to have a way to reinforce their knowledge on this topic. And unfortunately, the only way to reinforce them, one is to give them additional protection mechanisms. And that's the same kind of mechanisms. I always compare cybersecurity with a car. So if you bought a car 30, 40 years ago, it probably don't even have seat belt. The car of today not only has a seat belt, but it has an airbag, it has traction control, ABS systems, and even collision avoidance. So you have to think of AI prevention systems as a co-pilot to the average user to guide them into the right decision-making process so they don't make any risks to the organization. And the final element is really how you reinforce that security awareness. And usually reinforcing security awareness needs to have two elements for success. And we call this the carrot and the stick. So carrot means you reward when the person is doing good actions, and you kind of correct when the actions are not good. So by doing that, you steer the users of the organization, whether they're internal or external. So in the case of e-commerce company, it will be the people that are actually buying the goods online, to avoid certain types of risks. Because, for example, not only you have deepfakes, but you also have clones online of the entire shopping system, and somebody ends up buying something that will never get delivered to them. And people today prefer to shop online than actually go to the physical mall. So this awareness training is part of the elements to make it successful. The last thing I think is also important, and I call this cyber drills. No matter how much training or education or even AI systems you put in place, people still get into accidents the same way you get today into accident with a sophisticated car. It has ABS, traction control, collision avoidance. You still get into an accident, because if you're being reckless, you'll get into an accident. So the way you actually can prevent that is by doing drills. And cyber drills is a bit like fire drills. You don't want people to know how to evacuate the building while the fire is taking place. You want them to understand how to avoid before the fire takes place. So cyber drills allow to simulate cyber attacks, to create phishing attempts that are not real ones, to create deepfakes that are not real ones, and identify the percentage of users or the population that actually falls to those, and then go back and reinforce the training on those users. So having this continuous approach to cybersecurity makes us all more safe in the end.
Thank you, George. So now we know that it's not only implementing different kinds of solutions, but also to provide training for the end users and the drills that you mentioned as well to keep the online environment safe. So moving on from deepfakes, I want to talk a little bit about digital identity. Now that it is everywhere, you can easily open your phone, unlock your phone with a fingerprint or your face. And we know that the two most busiest airports in the world, in Singapore and Dubai, which I'm sure both Penny and George are very familiar with, are set to go all passport-free very, very soon, just using biometric authentication. But coming with that are also a lot of different kinds of threats against identity theft. So I want to ask first, Penny, the purpose of implementing digital identity in these kinds of situations, replacing physical documents, is to actually enhance the user experience. But how do we maintain this user experience well, but still making sure that everything is safe and secure?
If you look at today's society on digital identity, you actually have to take a look at the use case, right? If you look at the use case of today, surely a Google identity or your Facebook identity or your Instagram identity is not good enough for you to use that identity to transfer money from one person to another. It's not good enough for you to basically change your address in a bank. So really you have to look at using the right identity platform and the right identity that is on your profile for the right thing for different use cases. Now, today if you look at the identity usage in banks, in payment company, they make use of a document verified ID. And this document verified ID is enhanced with the matching of the face of the person. In Sumsub, we actually add on an additional way to ensure that this person is who he say he is, by allowing our customers to be able to directly connect with some of the government databases that exist in the world. So, for example, in Thailand will be the DOPA database. In Indonesia is the Dukcapil. In Singapore is SingPass, and all of these databases are available for us to verify these customers and make sure they are who they say they are. And regulated companies, financial institutions, they can make use of these facilities that we have. But over and above all of this identity verification at the beginning, where we talk about how we make use of identity, we also found that about 70% of fraud happens after onboarding. So therefore, we do encourage that, financial institutions, especially regulated ones, you should actually protect the identity that you have onboarded by doing ongoing monitoring, using AI as a factor to help you monitor the transactions and make sure that the person is continuing to be who they say they are after onboarding. Transaction monitoring is getting to be more and more an important factor, and this become a regulated requirement in many countries. For those who are, working on crypto, travel rule is coming up as part of the regulated requirement before you are allowed to, do a crypto exchange. So using identity, as you mentioned earlier, can be implemented in many, many different ways. If you are basically going to use an identity to apply and register in a gym, then your Google identity is probably good enough. But if you are going to be opening an account and doing payments, that is definitely not safe enough. And using a solution like Sumsub will be very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you, Penny. I think George would like to add something.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Dubai as a smart gate. Actually, I've been there since almost 30 years. And I've seen, actually, 30 years ago, there was no Dubai airport. It was very small, only 2 gates. Bahrain airport was much bigger. But as it introduced what we call the smart gate, it went to, I'd say, 3 major evolutions. The first one was a smart card with finger biometric. Then it evolved to eye biometric. That was like the second generation, so you no longer actually technically needed a card, so you could interact directly between the passport or you as a person. And now there's you can say a third generation, which with high quality lighting and cameras, you just walk in a corridor, you don't have to take out your passport. It is actually able to read your eye just by simply walking, because the lighting is very good. That really means it creates a frictionless approach that enables you to pass through immigration without actually taking in any document out. Of course, if you have enough volume of this, that means you no longer need attendance, so it becomes very protected and very simple and very friendly to the user. But there's always one aspect that is also important as well. Behind this, there's other technology that is very useful and important. One is the blockchain technology that is combined with AI and biometrics. And what that allows you to do is to also keep identity of that person locked, and meaning that if the person was to lose the passport, they will be able to leave Dubai, because they will as long as they're able to prove that it's themselves, all the remaining information is already in the system. So that means they are able to redonate the identity back to the person, although the passport may not have been issued. So there's a multitude of elements that are very flexible and create a whole new user experience. Back to biometrics, I would like to say that biometrics also come with a risk, and there are several risks that are worth noting. One is if you have a finger or eye, you cannot change it. So if that biometric was to be stolen, then obviously this creates a big, or impersonated, a big risk to the user. Especially now, as you know, there's something called WorldCoin, or in which they are capturing everybody's biometrics. Some countries have refused to do so because they consider, especially European countries, a big GDPR risk. So you need to have a balance between, on one side, offering the service, but on the other side, protecting the privacy of the user. So as long as that privacy is also protected at the same time, and it's very easy and friendly to use, then I think the solutions will take flight. The last point I would like to make about biometrics, it's always important to have what I call not a single biometric, but more than one. And we call sometimes this multimodal biometrics. So in the case, could be face, could be eyes, could be fingerprint. And the combination of these gives you a much better factor and success rate. Why is this important? Because during the Hajj, which is the pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia, we found that some tribes in Africa don't actually have ridges in their fingers. So if you're actually using finger as your biometric device, it works maybe for 90% of the planet, but there's 10% that don't have, so it will create always false identity for those users. So having more than one biometric and being able to combine that together gives you a much better assurance how to provide the identity management service to the users.
Thank you, George and Penny. I think there are 2 points that definitely was very intriguing for me. First is what Penny mentioned, that over 70% of fraud happens actually after the point of onboarding. So we should take care of the onboarding and the whole experience as well, not only just to register someone or get someone onboarded on our service. And another thing that George mentioned was that our biometrics, we have to take care of them, because once they're stolen, we cannot change them. So please do take care of your biometrics as well. So we have focused a lot on external fraud. And how about insider fraud? So for those who don't know what is insider fraud, so this is actually when your employees are the people who are perpetuating the fraud from the inside of your organization, because they have access to very confidential business data every day. So when we're talking about insider fraud, there are actually 2 very common scenarios that could happen. First, we have Sally, who's accessing confidential business data every day, and she plans to sell it for some money. Then we have Steven, who's also accessing confidential data, and he's clicking into a lot of malicious emails every day and bringing the risk into the company's system, and also himself of losing his data and the company's data. So I would like to ask both of our panelists, how do we manage and educate this within the company without being the big brother? And what are the things that we can do to protect our businesses from within? Let's start with Penny.
Okay, so insider fraud is interesting because you are actually having the fraudsters right inside your organization. So really can't emphasize enough about both cybersecurity and protection in terms of processes. So many companies now realize that, you know, the temptation, once there is money to be made, the temptation is high. And for any insider, you have the opportunity to be bribed. You do have the opportunity to manipulate data so that someone actually get more salary, more commissions than they should. So some of the tactics that people make use of is to look at the amount that is being transferred. Like on a monthly basis, when there is a salary time or there is a ongoing payment of commissions, most of the time there is actually power of authority, and you do have to exercise a few power of authority, especially above certain amount. You will have more than one staff approving the amount to be allowed to be transferred. And then most importantly as well, it's the same as treating your customer in terms of protection. You do want to also protect yourself internally by using like what George mentioned, using some sort of biometric for authentication into systems that are sensitive data. You do want to make sure that during the authentication into accessing sensitive data, there's an audit log as to who has actually accessed the data, when did they get removed, and why. And you can go back and look at investigations. And I think most importantly, if you exercise the same kind of onboarding a staff and offboarding the staff, you are exercising protection on insider fraud. Yeah.
Actually, you presented two very important points. On one side, if it's the employee that is doing something bad because he doesn't know, we call these clueless employees, meaning they're just doing something that they did not expect as a risk. The only way to prevent that is obviously through SETA, or security education, training, and awareness. You need to reinforce the users to actually change their behavior and doing some kind of testing to make sure that that training was successful. So that takes care of, the risks by accident. The other one is risks because somebody has intent. And in today's world, this intent is much more pronounced because everybody is trying to retire early. Now, obviously, the risks are high. So, for example, if you have a company like, let's say, NVIDIA, which has secrets about new chip generations, a lot of people are very interested in getting those, and they're willing to pay very large amounts to get access to the designs or being able to reproduce. If you're making an airplane and you want to make a similar one, and so on. So the variations are many. Banking sector as well. There, I think the most important aspect is to have, on one side, AI to detect kind of anomalies, but the other side is to have multi-defense mechanisms. Let me give you a few examples of some. One is by combining digital security with physical security. Many of the people perpetrate these bad accesses to data. They use by borrowing somebody else's credentials, which means that if somebody is sitting at a terminal and has access to some data that they intend to copy or photocopy, they want to have the physical access match the terminal access. So if he's not in that room, how come he's accessing? So having the right protection mechanisms in place enables you to detect that. Also, unusual accesses. And those unusual accesses could be the time of the day that is being done. Sometimes also we have to take into account the people that put our organization at most risk. The two people that have the lowest education and the most access are the cleaners and the security guards. It's very easy to double the salary of a security guard or a cleaner and saying, "Oh, just go." And we have actually a case that happened in Bahrain where a mobile company and a competitor that just came into the scene was always being outsmarted because the new marketing campaigns they wanted to launch, they got ahead notice of those. So they put some hidden cameras and they recognized that at night the cleaners were going to the people's desks, photocopying the material, putting the material back in the desks, and of course passing this information back to the competitor. Unfortunately, regardless how many ideas I give you to defend yourself, I think the most important thing is in security, you always have to go and continue. It's a continuous process. There's not one single solution or one single technology that is actually going to protect you. You have to always improve and be attentive to the risks and test your systems. And it's by having this continuous process, then you have a better chance of identifying the risks as they happen and then taking action. So a few years ago, I actually created an approach towards security that I usually call the 6 A's of security. And the 6 A's are as follows. A for assess, means always assess. Architect, that means implement the right, apply by putting the right tools. Administer means you monitor every day the security. Third, or fifth and sixth one are called agility and awareness, meaning awareness to give the right skills, and agility means you need to be fast. So security is not something you do 9 to 5, it's something you need to do 24/7, because the hackers don't choose the time that you are at work at your desk to actually defend the security that you have for your valuables.
So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the 6 A's that George just mentioned. That would be the key to protecting your system and your customers. So thank you so much, our panelists today. And thank you. It was definitely a very insightful session. And to our audience, if you have the time, please drop by at Sumsub's booth to experience their system and their solutions, which could really help your platform elevate the experience.
Thanks for having us.
So thank you, EXPO. So thank you, Kitty, for being a nice moderator.
Yeah, wonderful
and thank you for the
moderator.
audience, or the silent audience to be here
Silent
with us.
audience.
Thank you.